This is the AHSAA Weekly, presented by America's First Federal Credit Union. Your inside look at everything going on with the Alabama High School Athletic Association. I'm John Holder. Coming up on this week's show, we will preview the AHSAA statewide game of the week coming up Thursday night here on WOTM. It's an East Alabama battle between the Oxford Yellow Jackets and the Gadsden City Titans from Titan Stadium in Gadsden. We will speak with Ali Smith, the head coach of the Gadsden City Titans, and also Sam Adams. He's the head coach of the Oxford Yellow Jackets. We're going to talk girls flag football, a new sport in the AHSAA for the 2021-22 school year. We're going to speak with Carmen Starr. She is the head coach of the girls flag football program at Spain Park High School in Hoover. We will also speak with the director of communication for the Alabama High School Athletic Association, Ron Ingram, as we look back to the first half of the high school football season. And of course, we'll have David Holzford's highlights, volleyball and football highlights from across the state of Alabama from the week that has just ended. All of that and more coming up on this week's edition of the AHSAA Weekly, presented by America's First Federal Credit Union.
Every bank has their own app, but it's just that, theirs. At AmFirst, our app was made for you, so you can personalize your dashboard, pay your bills, and redeem points for rewards you'll love. Get the app made for you at AmFirst.
We are back on the AHSAA Weekly. We're going to talk about something we've never talked about before on the AHSAA Weekly, and that is flag football, because we've never had the sport in Alabama until this year, and now we have girls flag football, and we're going to speak with one of the teams that I think was the very first to sign up for flag football in the state of Alabama, the Spain Park Jaguars, and their coach is Carmen Starr. Coach, glad to have you with us here on the AHSAA Weekly.
Oh, we appreciate it. Thanks so much for the shout out and for the support. We're excited to get rolling.
Coach, I think is that true that you were like the first maybe school that signed up for flag football?
Was probably pretty close. We were, when it was announced at the AD principal meeting at AHSAA conference in April, I immediately looked at my AD and I said, that's mine. We're rolling with that. And he was 100% in support of bringing it to Spain Park and Hoover City Schools. So yeah, we're super excited. Well,
Coach, now I can absolutely feel and see your excitement about this. Have the girls there at Spain Park, are they as excited about this as you are?
I think so. I think, it's really neat to see these ladies that came out, kind of stepped out of their comfort zone and took on a challenge that they didn't know anything about. And, because they love the game of football and not really knowing a whole lot about it. But we have a few athletes that play other sports, but most of the girls are out here because they love football and want to learn and want to be coached and want to be challenged. And so it's really neat. I think they're excited. I think they're a little bit nervous, just piling on a lot of information, but they're really enjoying it and having a lot of fun.
Coach Starr, football, of course, is so ingrained in our culture here in Alabama. Growing up, was this something that you wanted to play? Did you ever think, well, I wish I could play football?
Every day. My grandmother really kind of instilled my love of football and, grew up a Bama fan, but, we watched games. She took us to Hall of Fame Classic. She took us to the Stallions games. She took us to a lot of football games, and my cousins, all male cousins, played football, and it was almost daily. I would go up to coaches and go, I want to play. I want to play. So now that I'm obviously a lot older, having the opportunity to coach it and to coach ladies and know that this is a great opportunity and an avenue for them just to exceed in another area and build some confidence, it's so exciting.
I understand that your husband, soccer coach there at Spain Park, is also one of your assistant coaches. How's that working? Tell us about that.
We kind of co-head coach. He is the girls soccer coach, and he is been coaching here since the doors open. So I know football. He knows coaching. So we're kind of doing it together. We've been married 26 years, and our youngest, or our only, is 21 and playing college football. So it was just a new chapter and something fun that he knew he wanted to support me on, and I wanted him with me and to take it on together.
Coach, how many young ladies do you have involved with the flag football program at Spain Park?
We have 16 on our roster, and looking to add maybe another one or two. Being 7-on-7, we'll probably have a few that'll play both sides of the ball. So I didn't want to pile on too much, but I expect that after some success and seeing how much fun the girls will have this year, that next year this is just laying the foundation for a bright future.
Have you played any games yet?
Not yet. Our first game is Tuesday. So Tuesday we start the season. We've got 9 games scheduled right now. So yeah, we'll see how it all unfolds on Tuesday.
Now, the girls that are competing in your program, do they play other sports, or are they just playing football only, or are they also multi-sport athletes?
I have a few multi-sport athletes. I've got a couple of basketball players. I have lacrosse players and a few track girls. So we've got about half and half on multi-sport athletes, and then just some newbies that came out because they love football.
Tell us about some of the young ladies that you think are going to be top players for you. This is new to me, talking about top wide receivers and quarterbacks and that are girls. Tell us about that.
I love it. It's awesome. Our quarterback is a sophomore. She's a basketball player. Her name is Emily Strickland. She's got a great arm, and I think she's going to do really well leading the offense. We've got a few great wide receivers, Olivia Williams, Caitlin Blanca, who's a lacrosse player. So I think we've got some talent. We'll see how we can roll it all out. We've got some young ones. I've got a couple of middle schoolers out here that are just little beast mode running back. So it's going to be fun.
Coach, finally, this is going to have playoffs this year. There'll be, as I understand it, an 8-team playoff, narrowing it down to the final 2. Those final 2 will play as part of the Super 7 state championships at Protective Life Stadium in Birmingham.
Yeah.
That's got to be, I don't even have to ask, I know it's exciting for you, but the young ladies, it's got to be huge that they may have the opportunity to play as part of the Super 7 and play at Protective Life Stadium.
They're excited. They were like, they were bummed that we weren't playing for a state championship already this year. And I was like, well, look, ladies, we got to take one step at a time. But I think it's amazing that AHSAA has opened that up to give them the opportunity to kind of have a showcase there at the end of the season and give them something, a goal to shoot for. They're excited to have that opportunity. And AHSAA has just done an outstanding job with getting this program off the ground. We couldn't be happier.
Well, Coach Starr, I feel the enthusiasm here. Looking forward to keeping up with your team throughout this 9-game season that's coming up. Thank you for joining us here on the AHSAA Weekly.
We appreciate it so much. Thank you very, very much for having us.
Carmen Starr is the head flag football coach at Spain Park High School in Hoover, joining us this week on the AHSAA Weekly, presented by America's First Federal Credit Union.
Looking for a perfect checking account? Don't waste your time. No minimum balance, no monthly fees, and a convenient app. Now you could try and find that at a bank, or you could save yourself the trouble by checking with us.
Back on the AHSAA Weekly, presented by America's First Federal Credit Union. We've reached basically the halfway point of the high school football season already. It goes by faster as I get older, I'll promise you that. We're already there at the halfway point of the 2021 season. Thought it would be a good time to check in with the Director of Communication for the Alabama High School Athletic Association, Ron Ingram, to kind of recap and assess where we are after the first half of the season. Ron, glad to have you with us here on the AHSAA Weekly.
Appreciate it, John. I'm glad to be here. It's been an awesome first half of the season. A lot of things have happened. Crowds are back to normal, big crowds at big games, and there's a lot of excitement.
Absolutely. A couple of things that I always like about high school football, and this happens every year. Ron, you've been around it for decades, and it's always fun to see these teams that maybe never have had much success in the past start to have some success, and teams that maybe have had success and had tradition that have been down for a while to come back. I think about teams specifically this year like Keith High School in Orrville, who hasn't had a lot of success, and now they're having a phenomenal season, and a team who's had a lot of success and now is kind of bringing that back in Cleburne County High School over in Heflin. That's just a couple that come to my mind. I always like to see those teams that kind of come along and out of nowhere, so to speak, and have a great season.
I agree with you. You know, what I like to see also are schools that have been working really, really hard to build a program, and you start seeing it finally beginning to pay off. And just last week, for instance, Jackson Olin beat Pinson Valley. Coach Tim Fakakis has done a great job at Jackson Olin, one of our better schools. We best remember Jackson Olin when they had a young little quarterback named David Palmer, and they were as good as anybody in the state. But Coach Fakakis has the team playing really, really well, and Sam Shade has Pinson Valley playing real, real well, and that was quite a game last week. And then we saw Enterprise playing Central Phoenix City last Friday night, both teams undefeated. That's the kind of Enterprise I remember, and it's essential that we know.
Well, Ron, let's talk about maybe some other impressions that you have of this first half of the season. We're already making memories for a lifetime already in this first half of the season. What stands out to you so far?
Well, I think one of the things that pops out to me is the fact that we've already had two schools this year that reached 700 wins in their school's history. Fayette County last year had 3 or 4 opportunities to do it at the end of the year, but they didn't quite get it done, and they started the year at 699, and they played 2 really tough games to start the season. T.R. Miller caught up with them and actually is now 1 win ahead of them. They have 701 wins, and Fayette County has 700 going into this week. And we have Aniana sitting there at 697, I believe it is. So all these years, and now 3 of our programs, and these are storied programs when you think about it. T.R. Miller history goes way back. Fayette County successes go way back, and Aniana's successes go way back. It's not surprising that those 3 schools are sitting right there at that such a lofty goal. There's only been 2 schools in the state so far to win 700 games, and they did it this year.
Ron, next week on the AHSAA statewide game of the week on WOTM, we're going to highlight 2 teams out of Class 7A Region 3, Oak Mountain taking on Spain Park. I don't know if I've seen a region before in this state that is more powerful from top to bottom. I mean, Ron, we have teams in this region that are not only some of the best teams in this state, we have teams that are some of the best in the South in high school football, some of the best teams in the country in this region. This region from top to bottom is amazingly good.
Well, it is. You know, obviously Thompson has turned the tide to move from really what had been at one time the bottom rung of Region 3, and Coach Mark Freeman came in and in a really short time turned it around. They're the 2-time state defending champions, even though last year's state championship was, what a finish. But they're 2-time defending state champions. You've got Hoover, looks like they're back as good as ever. Last week, Hoover played Oak Mountain, both were undefeated. Very tough game, could have gone either way. Thompson played Hewitt-Trustful. Hewitt had some problems a little bit earlier. They did score the first touchdown off Thompson, but Hewitt's sitting there with 1 loss. Vestavia Hills had not won a region game, and they won their first region game 50-0. So, and Spain Park has struggled with winning, but they're not struggled with playing well. And then, of course, Oak Mountain has been now 2 straight years. That program, Coach Love has got them on the right road.
Well, Ron, it's been a great season so far, just halfway through. Really, it's a third of the way through because we have half the regular season, then we have 5 rounds of playoffs, which are always great here as we are on that road to Birmingham, back to Birmingham this year for the Super 7. Thank you for spending some time with us to get your insight into the high school football season. Looking forward to the next couple of months of great high school football here in Alabama.
And one last note, the next win for Fife High School will be its 50th in a row.
Exactly. And they have a chance to set the all-time state record for consecutive wins. They'll have a chance to do that if they can win all the games in the regular season.
And this week, if they win, it will be their 50th. And there's only been 2 schools in the state history that's won 50 or more in a row, Urbana and, of course, Central Clay County. Or Clay County High School, not Central. But anyway, it's a lot of excitement this year, and I look forward to the rest of the year. I look forward to seeing who's going to make the playoffs, and I can promise you this, there'll be some team in the finals that nobody thought would get there, and they'll be there because they deserve it.
Absolutely. Ron, thank you so much for joining us here on the AHSAA Weekly.
Thank you too, John.
Ron Ingram, Director of Communication for the Alabama High School Athletic Association here on the AHSAA Weekly. Back in a moment.
Every bank has their own app, but it's just that, theirs. At AmFirst, our app was made for you, so you can personalize your dashboard, pay your bills, and redeem points for rewards you'll love. Get the app made for you at AmFirst.
Speaking now with the head coach of the Oxford High School Yellow Jackets. Oxford getting ready for another big region game at home this Friday night against the Pell City Panthers. And then next Thursday night, they're going to be traveling to Titan Stadium in Gadsden for a rival game with the Gadsden City Titans, a game you'll see right here on WOTM as our AHSAA Game of the Week. Coach Adams, welcome in. Glad to have you with us on the AHSAA Weekly.
Hey, glad to be here, and thanks for having me on.
Coach, before we talk a little bit about Gadsden City, let's just talk in general terms about your football team. You're in their first year as head coach at Oxford, coming over from Hillcrest, Tuscaloosa. You have a young football team. They were young to begin with, but then on top of that, you've had some really key injuries here in the early part of the season.
We definitely have. It's been the definition of the next man up kind of mentality. Going into last week, we started 5 freshmen and 1 8th grader, and that's to go along with a handful of sophomores. And, nobody's going to feel sorry for us. Oxford has kind of run this region for a couple of years now and had obviously a whole lot of success. And a lot of teams are always going to give Oxford their best shot, and this year's no different. We have an inexperienced group, but we have a bunch of guys that are, continue to go out and fight every single week. And we're getting better and better, and it just hasn't really showed up on the scoreboard in some cases.
Well, Coach, just watching your team play a couple of times this year, you look down the roster and look at those guys that are on the team. If you're a 10th grader, you're an old man at Oxford. That's just the way it is right now.
It is. I think last week we started 4 seniors, and we do have a good group of seniors. There's not many of them, but there's a lot of really good players in there. I think that's one of the things. Sometimes those guys are kind of getting lost in the shuffle with all the talk of the young guys that we have. And the seniors are, helping bring those guys along and kind of showing them the ropes. And, we just have a whole lot of guys out there that are getting their first varsity experience. We have a lot of guys that kind of skip the freshman team stage and the JV stage, and they're getting thrown into Friday nights, maybe a little bit earlier than what we originally planned. But, those guys are growing up a little bit more in front of our eyes. The 2 largest schools in East Alabama teeing it up. You played every year since Gadsden City has been a high school, so it's a big rival game. Wish your team the best as you go into the game against Gadsden City right here on WOTM. Thank you very much. Can't wait. Sam Adams, head coach of the Oxford High School Yellow Jackets, here on the AHSAA Weekly. We are going to visit now with the head coach of the Gadsden City Titans, Coach Ali Smith. His team getting ready for Spain Park on Friday night, a key game in Class 7A Region 3. But then next Thursday night, right here on WOTM in the AHSAA Game of the Week, his Titans will be hosting rival Oxford at Titan Stadium. Coach Smith, glad to have you with us here on the AHSAA Weekly.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having us on.
Coach, let's talk about your football team. You have played a tremendously tough schedule. Etowah, a team that's one of the top 10 teams in the state in Class 4A. Then you're talking about playing Hoover, who may be one of the top teams in the country. Then you had a tough trip to Oak Mountain. They're undefeated. Your football team now sitting at 2-2, but you played a really tough schedule.
Yes, we have, and our kids have done a pretty decent job with it. And it's been a challenge, but it's been an enjoyable challenge for us. Coach, tell us a little bit about your football team this year, and what's the positive so far that you've seen out of your team through 4 games? Well, we got a good group of young men that like to try to get better every week, and they're working their tails off. They like to get into the film and study, and so they are students of the game, and they're getting better every week. Looking ahead to the game with Oxford coming up at your place next Thursday night here on WOTM, you're a guy who played at Emma Sansom there in Gadsden before the consolidation. Emma Sansom and Gadsden High both played Oxford, and since Gadsden City consolidated, Gadsden City and Oxford have played every year 16 times. The series is 8-8, and you've been involved with all 16 of those games. Yes, it's always an exciting game for us, Gadsden and Oxford playing. A lot of rivalry, a lot of history there, so it's always exciting to get together with that group. Coach, how big is this game? Considering these are the 2 largest teams in the East Alabama community, how big is this game? You mentioned the rivalry between Gadsden City and Oxford. Man, it's definitely a big game for our kids and our community. So many people, so we're in close proximity, and a lot of our kids know their kids, and so a lot of people from the communities know each other, and our kids kind of competed against each other in youth ball and different things. So it's a good opportunity for our kids to get together and compete against each other.
Coach, best wishes to your team this week against Spain Park. Also, best wishes to your team against Oxford as they roll into Titan Stadium. And we'll have that game right here on our AHSAA Game of the Week on WOTM next Thursday night. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having us on.
Coach Ali Smith is the head coach of the Gadsden City Titans.
Looking for a perfect checking account? Don't waste your time. No minimum balance, no monthly fees, and a convenient app. Now you could try and find that at a bank, or you could save yourself the trouble by checking with us.
We are back on the AHSAA Weekly presented by America's First Federal Credit Union. Time for David Holzford's highlights. David Holzford of the Alabama High School Athletic Association putting together highlights from across the state of Alabama in both volleyball and football for this weekend. We are going to begin in the sport of volleyball, and with that, we're going to take you to Baldwin County. Class 6A, top-ranked Spanish Fort taking on Baldwin County in a key Class 6A Region 2 battle. Spanish Fort's front row shows its muscle quickly with Hannah Weishard delivering the spike you just saw there for a point. The Tigers and Toros then go toe-to-toe on this long rally before Reese Varden says that's enough, and she is going to spike it home for Spanish Fort and the Toros thanks to the strong play of Varden and Alden Rowley. They go on to beat Baldwin County. The scores were 25-16, 25-15, and 25-12. Staying with volleyball in the Mobile area, Class 6A Saraland, 32-0 on the season, taking on powerful Baker High School. We pick up the action with Rain Patterson finishing off a long rally with this point to give the Spartans the momentum. Later, it is Kayla Sisk going above the net with this strong finish for the point. Sisk helped Saraland to 7 wins for the week with more than 50 kills and more than 20 aces, and the Spartans take the win over Baker 25-15, 25-15, 16-25, and 25-9 in the 4-set victory as they take on Baker. We move to Huntsville now for football highlights. A number of big plays in the Thursday battle in Class 7A Region 4 between Albertville and Grissom at Milton Frank Stadium in Huntsville. The Aggies, coached by former Grissom head coach Chris English, came in looking for their first win. Aggie quarterback Andy Howard, a determined young man, throwing 3 touchdown passes, including this one to sophomore Javinci Doravel and one to Hayden Howard. Then Grissom quarterback Renzo Crutcher also had 2 touchdown passes for the Tigers. But the biggest play was this interception by Tigers cornerback Caleb Hunt, who grabbed this pass to the Grissom 5-yard line, raced 95 yards to the visitor end zone late in the game. However, it wasn't enough as Albertville racked up 323 yards on its way to a 34-27 victory and the Aggies' first win of 2021. We don't have to travel very far to find another North Alabama school seeking its first win. Decatur's Red Raiders hosted Buckhorn at Ogle Stadium in Class 6A Region 8 and gained some momentum early thanks to its defense as the game remained scoreless in the second quarter. We pick up action in the second quarter with Red Raiders quarterback Ellis Dickman connecting with receiver Jaden Brown in the corner of the end zone for an early lead. Buckhorn bounced back, however, to take the lead when Bucks quarterback C.J. Hatcher keeps for this touchdown to give his team a 14-10 lead. This was the Red Raiders' night, however. Dickman delivers again, delivering this pass to Jiron McDaniel with 39 seconds left for the winning touchdown as Decatur claws out a 16-14 win over Buckhorn in Class 6A Region 8 play at Ogle Stadium there in the city of Decatur. Staying in North Alabama now, it's Lee High School in Huntsville hosting Mae Jemison. Trailing early, Mae Jemison quarterback Kel Woods finds Jonathan Jones, who catches it on the left side of the field and then goes to the right side of the field, making all of the defense miss for a great touchdown. Awesome play right there. That's certainly worthy of a highlight. Later in the first half, Mae Jemison still trailing. Woods again takes the snap, runs the quarterback draw to perfection, getting to the sideline and giving Jemison the lead in the first half. We move on now to the second half. Lee trailing 12-8. The big boy on the defensive line, Colin Thomas, rips the ball away and takes it to the house, giving Lee the lead back. Great back and forth action here between Lee and Mae Jemison in the city of Huntsville. But Woods again, Kel Woods, 2 minutes left to play, trailing by 2 points, scrambles and finds the end zone again as Mae Jemison wins it 28-22. Moving south to Washington County, we find Leroy and Thomasville battling for the 52nd time since 1929, and as expected, this one went down to the final seconds. Wide receiver Grayson Rowe led the Bears with 6 catches for 193 yards, including this reception that covered 84 yards and a touchdown. Then he grabs a pass at the Thomasville 43-yard line. We're going to see that coming up right here just off the screen, and then races down the sidelines for the winning touchdown as Leroy wins the game over Thomasville 13-9, the final score in that game down in Southwest Alabama between the Leroy Bears and the Thomasville Tigers. Exciting action in South Alabama. And we cross the state to the Wiregrass, where we find 2 unbeaten Dale County rivals, Ariton and G.W. Long, tangling in a key Class 2A Region 2 battle at Ariton. The contest turned out to be as exciting as expected in front of a capacity crowd. Host Ariton starts the scoring in this one, handing off to talented running back Jordan Smith, who shakes through the defense for the touchdown and a 7-0 Purple Cats lead. Quarterback Kobe Stringer brought the Rebels back quickly. However, this score tied the game at 7-7. He takes off on a keeper, weaving past and dodging tacklers all the way for a 65-yard touchdown run at a 14-7 GW Long lead. Back to the Rebels' own 5-yard line, trailing 21-14. Stringer does it again early in the fourth quarter, this time with his arm. Standing in his own end zone, he connects across the middle to receiver Jackson Chansey on the quick pass, and Chansey outruns the Ariton defense for a 95-yard touchdown run. But the Purple Cats have one more chance, with Smith scoring on this dazzling 69-yard run with 2:10 left to preserve a 27-21 win. Smith finished the night with 33 carries, 248 yards, 2 scores. Ariton wins it 27-21. We close our statewide tour at Enterprise, just 30 miles from Ariton, as the Wildcats take on Central of Phoenix City in another battle of unbeatens in Class 7A Region 2. We go straight to the incredible finish with visiting Central leading 30-21 when Wildcats running back Wyatt Darlington bulldozes his way into the end zone to cut the Red Devils' lead to 30-27, just under a minute remaining. Now the bizarre finish. Enterprise lines up to try an onside kick, but the ball bounces high. Central's sure-handed receiver, sophomore Carmelo English, tucks the ball under his clutches and instead of falling on the ball, takes off running right past the Wildcats kickoff coverage team for 53 yards and the game-clinching touchdown with 33 seconds remaining to seal the Red Devils' 5th straight win. 36-27, Enterprise fell to 4-1. And, of course, on WOTM last week, we had a fantastic game on Thursday night in the rain in Montgomery at the Crampton Bowl between Opelika and Carver of Montgomery. Here's Mickey Shadricks and Gerhard Mathangani with the highlights.
And Thursday night lights tonight from Crampton Bowl in Montgomery pitted 2 undefeated region teams out of 6A Region 2. Gerhard, but tonight it wasn't the weather, it wasn't Carver, Montgomery. Nothing could slow down Opelika tonight as they picked up the win 28-6.
That's exactly right. They started in that first half really well, then they closed really well. And that's exactly what most football coaches want to see out of their teams, and Coach Speedman got it from his Bulldogs tonight.
Take a look at first half highlights.
We'll start with the first half highlights, and it really starts defensively for Opelika. They really set the tone with their defense on that first drive. Because it was raining so much, they had to go to the ground game, and they went straight to Caden Cooper. They gave him the ball multiple times. He caps it off with a touchdown, and they take the early 7-0 lead. They had a little lightning delay afterwards, and good tackling, gang-style tackling by the Bulldogs that led right into the second half. And in that second half, they needed a big play. They ended up getting a big play, but it was Carver's defense that did it. It's a big interception return for a touchdown by Jacarius Thompson, a 110-yard pick six, made it 14-6. And then kind of one of the backbreakers with a touchdown there, and the Bulldogs get the win 28-6 and run their region record to a perfect 3-0.
Thank you, Mickey and Gerhard, and we want to thank David Holtzford and the folks with the NFHSA network across the state of Alabama for their highlights as well. And we will see you back here on the AHSAA Weekly, presented by America's First Federal Credit Union.